Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Green Zone podcast here with yours truly, Cameron Green, with you here on this beautiful Thursday afternoon here in the College of St. Scholastica in Duluth, Minnesota. Today, we'll be talking a lot, I think, about the current NFL state where we're at right now in the final weeks of the season. The Super Bowl matchup is set. I'm reacting to the AFC and NFC title games and see kind of what that means for the teams that lost this week and maybe for the rest of the conference as well, while also previewing the Super Bowl too. But don't worry, you won't get my pick here today. My pick will probably come next week as we preview the final days leading up to the Super Bowl. Where this week it's more so just kind of a overview of seeing what we're getting into as we come to that Super Bowl Sunday there too. And it's the funny thing too is that once the Super Bowl ends, things will start to pick up differently. Will be a lot more baseball coverage, college basketball coverage as well with March Madness coming up. Um, we're going to be seeing a lot of more things coming up here on this Green Zone podcast. I wouldn't say we're officially like an NFL podcast, but it's really easy to get into the NFL season and that sort of things when it's in season. So when it's out of season, we're going to pivot and go elsewhere. But don't worry, I think we're going to have plenty of stuff here. Baseball stuff is going to be huge. If you're not following our second page, our baseball page as well, Green Zone Baseball on the YouTube channel, it's GZ Baseball, capital G, capital Z Baseball. So that's where we're going to have exclusively our baseball content. We'll still be doing it here on our main page, the Green Zone Podcast, with Cameron Green. That's our YouTube page here, Green Zone Pod. But on the Green Zone Baseball page, we're more so becoming not an exclusive baseball page, but a lot more deep dives, maybe a lot more insight into the baseball side of things. So that'll be coming up here shortly. We'll have some stuff posted on there. So there's already two videos posted as time of this recording, and there will be more going out, I believe, today and tomorrow. So if we're diving right into what we want to talk about here today on the Green Zone podcast, recently on Sunday, Championship Sunday, remember we went into last week, and I remember saying, we start here, I'm going to start in the NFC with the Commanders and the Eagles. I went into last week talking about how I thought perhaps that the Eagles would be too overmatched offensively if the Commanders set out to stop Saquon Barkley and forcing Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown to get really way more involved in the offense than they wanted to if Saquon's going to be the guy for the week in and week out, side of things for the Eagles offense side of the ball. But it's pretty straightforward that the Commanders could not stop Saquon Barkley. I don't think a lot of teams can stop Saquon Barkley either. And it's really, it's tough to say that I think it's like the Commanders can't have too much at once. You can't bite into the apple and eat the whole thing at once. You got to take little beats and pieces of it, little bites at a time, little bits, little pieces, and then you just really start to add those up. And that becomes what the Commanders can go for next year. What I'm really intrigued about, though, is where the Commanders sit in the division for next year because Dallas seems to be getting back to full strength as at least they're, gearing up for another year with a healthy quarterback for a full year and a healthy CeeDee Lamb. Maybe upgrade the running back position if you really want to, but get more weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Pay Micah Parsons' defensive side of the ball. Get a new coach in there as Brian Schottenheimer is the new Dallas Cowboys head coach. But get some new people in there. I don't think Dallas is sitting back here saying, well, we got a blueprint on our hands for years to come here in Washington. We'll just take this for the time being and we'll just lay down between Philly, Washington, and Dallas. I mean, we all know where the Giants are and where they are probably going to be next year. Right now, drafting, I think it's third overall. So, you get yourself a quarterback and you get yourself set up for next year and you slowly start building bits and pieces to that as you add to that one there too. But I think the NFC East, when we talked about the North this year and the NFC side of things too, as the most intimidating division, I really do think that the East comes away with the final. Maybe it might be recent bias and stuff, but I mean, I think the East takes most of the crown for the toughest division in football when you have both teams from the NFC East standing in that division there. But so, I think the thing is too, when you're Jane Daniels, is that he'll probably win Rookie of the Year, even though Brock Bowers is the first team All Pro. Jane Daniels will probably win Rookie of the Year, but you're looking at things differently in a different lens as well. Is that you had the second overall pick last year for a reason. Dan Quinn comes in and shakes things up, and this Commanders team is now ready to roll for next year. They'll be in a great spot, and they should have a decent amount of money to spend in free agency. If you think about maybe getting a decent running back or drafting one too, this running back class for this year's draft is supposed to be loaded. The Commanders going out there and getting themselves a decent running back. You have Zach Ertz is a great tight end option. Terry McLaurin's a great receiving option to start there, and you get some pieces on the defensive side of the ball. This Commanders team could be good for years to come. It could be a really solid team, and I think the Eagles will have their work cut out for them next year and beyond with this Commanders team. And we hope the Jaden Daniels thing works long term because we've seen it before with Robert Griffin III, and there's other quarterbacks that come and go and fizzle out, have a good year, and then all of a sudden it's not going well the next year. And it's, stuff can shift so fast in the NFL, and that's just something that happens. But I want to see the Commanders be in a good spot for the next year and for years to come. On the other side of things in the AFC, though, we're going to be talking about the Buffalo Bills, shifting this one here. Uh, the Bills, I don't really think played that bad of a game. They didn't play that poor. They just, I guess you could say they got Mahomes. They only got whatever the Chiefs, you got chiefed. You got maybe outcoached, I would say, by Andy Reid. But again, that's one of the few great coaches in football today, but all time. I mean, Andy Reid's probably a top five coach ever. It's really like a special circumstances for the Chiefs where they are there. And you wonder um, if Kansas City wins this Super Bowl, is it the end for Travis Kelce? Is it the end for some of these guys? What the tough part is that you have to get new players in because you win a Super Bowl, everyone's value skyrockets, and everyone wants to be the guy on the different team. I wouldn't say you start to lose players, maybe you start to lose part of the locker room as well. Like I don't think DeAndre Hopkins is a long-term option at receiver. Noah Gray might be a really good tight end for years to come. I think Noah Gray's had himself quite a run here as well. Playing, I guess, belong or aside Travis Kelce, maybe I would say behind him, but alongside him as well. But Xavier Worthy, like they'll gadget him around for years. And I think if you're Kansas City, though, you go out and get a really nice receiver. You maybe make a trade and get yourself another player there. But I want to shift here and focus on Buffalo because, I think Buffalo, once again, you lose to Kansas City. And that's the unfortunate part of the business for the Bills is that you ever look at like climbing the mountain. And you can't put this game on Josh Allen, really. I wouldn't even say you put it defensively on things. You gave up 32 points to a Chiefs offense that, well, I think, let's be honest, of the three teams the Chiefs have had to go to the Super Bowl, I think this year is probably by far the worst one, even though they are uh, one of the better ones in terms of record wise. I don't think this is one of the best Chiefs teams we've seen over these last 3 years. And that's, maybe saying something to Buffalo, maybe saying something to Kansas City of just things are changing the way that the landscape is in the NFL. And I'm not sure if, Buffalo can maybe make that jump for next year, but the Bills certainly need to have something go right for them at some point. Like when you look at the game, I think Allen played really well, but James Cook played really well, but was also not really involved down the stretch of that game, which is what you want to see your best playmaker on the field. And James Cook was the best playmaker on that field. For my dollar, I think James Cook was one of the most effective players in that game, and he was not on the field when it mattered the most. I mean, I think Buffalo still needs to find their next Stephon Diggs. Shakir's good, and Dalton Kincaid is a solid tight end option. I guess, when you drop the ball there at the end, it's not all on Kincaid. There's a lot of things that go wrong. It makes it happen. I don't know why everyone's putting the blame on Kincaid, but there's a lot of things that need to go right for Buffalo to make that next step, and it's about keeping the certain core together. And they talk about bringing back Amari Cooper, but I don't think Amari Cooper's a number one or a number two hardly anymore. He might be a fringe number two receiver, and if that's the case, that's what he wants to do. Then Buffalo could be right back here next year, and you have Keon Coleman, but I wouldn't mind to see Buffalo go out and get a really solid receiver, maybe make an acquisition. Just like I talked about for the Chiefs, is like you need to go out and find your guy that you think is going to be the next one coming up here for them. And there's a lot of names out there. You go get yourself a George Pickens. I think Pittsburgh kind of wants out of Pickens. Um, you can go get yourself one of those premier guys if Tyreek Hill became available. If Tyreek to Buffalo was a thing, I think that'd be pretty unstoppable. I think I had probably the best arm in football and one of the fastest guys in football as well. And the ultimate goal is to take down the Tyreek's former team. Like that's a team that, it's a scenario that could play out, but also could be something you might not want to see if you're Kansas City. in the far thing here. But I just look at the Bills. I don't think you don't need to make a coaching change. Of course, we all know you have one of the best quarterbacks in football. We know that you have a pretty okay defense, good secondary, one of the better running backs. I think James Cook's a top 10 running back in football. You just you need to win. And it's like the thing that sucks is that we thought this team was going to take a step back this year after losing some guys, and they really didn't miss a step, didn't miss a beat at all. Um, it would be interesting to see what the Bills look to do now as they pivot towards the offseason and get maybe a little more aggressive because if I was a Bills fan or I'm a Bills owner, man, I don't know how much I can take of just sitting around here and hoping things will get better. And you need to go out and do something and make that move. And I think, I just said in my head that Tyreek killed the Buffalo. It's a lot of money you had to pay Tyreek, but if he wants to be a part of something there differently and how he feels about being in Miami, but it's tough to say with Buffalo. You got to find that thing that can put you over the top and finally get you to climb the mountain. Which leads us to the Super Bowl preview of the Eagles and the Chiefs, and like I think this is one of the least exciting matchups I think I could have been wanting for my Super Bowl bracket. I originally had Ravens and Lions, and I think I had the Chiefs going to the AFC Championship at least. I think I had that much, but I did not have Buffalo that far or Philly that far. Yes, I had Baltimore over Kansas City, and I had Detroit over the Minnesota Vikings. A man could dream, right? I'm a Viking fan. I can dream. So you're looking here at this Chiefs Eagles schedule. I mean, it's not exciting. It's not very sexy Super Bowl matchup, but it is probably two of the best teams in football. Like it really probably is. Like I just would have wished that Detroit would have like get past Washington. It would have been Washington and Philly. That way we know that the best team in the Super Bowl is probably the best team in football. I mean, like Kansas City went through everybody all year. Kansas City beat Baltimore. You beat Buffalo. You lost to Denver in that last week. Like Kansas City has gone through everybody, and that kind of what makes them. You can sit there and say like, yeah, it's annoying, but they're probably the best AFC team in football this year, and that's just the gist of that one there too. But when you're looking here, what the Eagles are to bring, I mean, they have the most, I think, dynamic team in football because you have the best. You could argue here that Saquon Barkley is the best player this year in all of football, and that's I don't think a stretch to say that. Um, Barkley is on a run of his own. It's record setting. It's going to be record breaking, you would think. And it would be great for Saquon to cap off this year on a Super Bowl win, to go from being basically abandoned by the Giants to all of a sudden you are now the guy in Philly and bring that team all the way to get a Super Bowl. It certainly would be fun to see and something else to see as well. But when the Eagles and Chiefs meet off again for the second time in 3 years, I think it's not very exciting to the general public either. It just feels a little lackluster to me as well. I mean, I share everyone's belief here. I would have rather seen Buffalo, Philly, or Washington, KC. I would maybe have felt a little bit differently about both of them there. But we'll see. That Super Bowl is it's a the hardest thing to win in football, and I guess there's a part of me that wants Philly to win because I would like to see Saquon have himself a Super Bowl trophy in his case there. I'd like to see Kansas City win because I want to see a three-peat, and historically that has not ever happened yet in pro football. I can see both sides of why I want both teams to win. But I don't really know. I'm not. We'll get that next week. Like I say, we'll mention next week our picks for the final Super Bowl thing. We'll probably do maybe a little pick six, maybe a little bet going on. We'll see what I do there for more than just a game. But we're looking at the Super Bowl is the most anticipated event of the year, and it's come all the way down to this. And I do though want to thank everybody for watching. That stuck with me for my week in week out picks. It's certainly an adventure for who I think is going to happen. And my predictions here, I think I had a Super Bowl that was not this. I think I had 49ers and Bills or 49ers and Ravens, something like that. I definitely had San Francisco win the Super Bowl this year. But it does feel nice that Philly and Kansas City are the teams in the Super Bowl. They feel like they're two of football's best to offer. And I guess it's all you can ask for. And all we can ask for is a good game here. But yes, this is a short kind of Green Zone podcast. Like I mentioned, it's all going to be about football for the next 2 weeks as we wrap up the season. And then we'll be looking at to shift into other things, probably focusing a lot more on baseball, and how that's heating up, and our predictions for those teams as catchers and pitchers report. I think it's what 2 weeks after the Super Bowl, or maybe next week after. But from that point on, they will be looking at football for the main point going forward. So from Cameron Green on the Green Zone podcast here today, a little bit of a shorter episode, just focusing on football for these next 2 weeks. I want to thank you for watching. Tune into our baseball page at GZ Baseball on YouTube. But on the Green Zone podcast, I want to thank you for tuning in. From Cameron Green, signing off. I'll see you guys next week.